Hi everyone, it's Kay Kalthoff and welcome to a Stamping to Share video. I have a special treat for you today in that we're going to be making two cards, similar but different. And just in time for Valentine's Day, because I know many of you have this stamp set. It's called Lots of Love from our annual 2017-18 Stampin' Up! Catalog. And I really like it because you don't have to use it for just Valentine's Day. There's so many times when you want to send a love card for someone's birthday, when you're thinking about them, when they need a little special pick-me-up. And so these are the two cards we're going to be creating. And you can see that they are similar, but yet a little bit different. This is probably a little more lovey-lovey in that it's got the Berry Burst color and it uses some great foil frenzy here in the background. And you really could make this any color. I'm choosing to recreate it just as it is with the Berry Burst items. And then this one uses our whole lot of lovely designer series paper. And a couple of the colors in that designer series paper is Crushed Curry and Tranquil Tide, which looks so beautiful together. So I decided to recreate that for you as well. Now, I was inspired by one of my downline members, Kim Lundstrom. She's also my assistant, and I truly appreciate her. And so these were two cards that she came up with, and I'm so happy to share them here with you. So let me go ahead and show you some of the items that we're using. I did mention the Lots of Love stamp set, and it coordinates here with the Sweet and Sassy Hearts Framelits set. This is a huge set of framelits, and I tend to think of this side as our sassy side because it has a little bit of a curve in it. And then these hearts are the sweet side, so they're your straight edged hearts. And so I'm going to set that aside for a minute, and here is the designer paper we're using. We're going to use the whole lot of lovely designer series paper, and this particular card is a great way to use up your designer series paper if you have some you'd like to use up, because you can get 9 sections out of each set or out of each piece of designer series paper, and so that would make up 9 cards for you. And I just really love the colors in this, so any of these pages would work just gorgeously for this particular card. And then the Foil Frenzy, which really doesn't get talked about enough in my opinion. It is so pretty. It has kind of a craft background, and then you have this bright pop of foil, and so you get like the Berry Burst, the Tangerine Tango, the Lemon Lime Twist, and a Soft Sky. And there are 4 dot sections, there's 4 stripe sections in the exact same colors, and then there's kind of this chevron look also in the 4 colors. And it is a great specialty designer series paper. And then what we need to do is get started with this. So one thing that we're going to need for sure to create these cards is our Stampin' Scrub from Stampin' Up, because we're going to need to wash our stamp in between our colors that we're going to be using today. So this is a great little washer and dryer for your stamp pads. I like to use it particularly with our rubber stamps, either our wood back stamps or our rubber clear mount stamps. And the reason is because it's just a nice sturdy washer pad. So I put a little bit of tape here on this side. This is just painter's tape in blue. That way I know which side is going to be my wet side. And then I have my dry side over here. So I'm going to set this aside, but this is what I will be using when I'm ready to wash the stamp in between inkings. Now I am going to go ahead and put some Stampin' Mist here on what I consider my wet side and get that all ready for this particular video. So I'm going to set that aside, and then we can go ahead and start recreating our card. The first thing that we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and create those little sections of the heart pop-outs. Let me bring the card back in place again. You're going to see on both of these cards that there's a little bit of contrast here where there's a heart framelit cut out. And so we need to stamp these. So we're going to need one in Berry Burst, and we're going to need one in Crushed Curry. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to stamp those first. So let me get a little bit of scrap paper down here. And then I just have 2 little scraps of Whisper White, which are about 3 by 3 or maybe 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. Then I'm going to open up the crushed curry, and I'm also going to open up the berry burst here. And what we're going to do is we don't need to ink up the whole stamp. We just need to really ink up this little section here. So I'm going to ink up the crushed curry first, and we'll stamp that right here in the middle of this little square. And then I'm going to go ahead and ink up the berry burst after I've cleaned my stamp. So now I can go ahead and ink this up in berry burst. And again, just stamp that right in the middle of that little square. And now it's ready to run through the Big Shot machine, and we can put these colors aside. So here is what it looks like after you've run it through the Big Shot machine. I have my magnetic platform as my base piece, and then I have my cut plate, and then I use the very smallest of that little curvy heart, the little sassy heart, and I just set it in here and cut it out so that the lots of is emphasized in the heart. And I did that with both the crushed curry piece and the berry burst piece. And now these are ready to put on our cards. So I'm going to set those aside, and then we'll do a little bit more stamping. The next thing we're going to do is stamp our panels that say sending lots of love. So I have 2 Whisper White panels here. These are 2 1/4 by 4 inches. And we'll go ahead and we'll stamp the Sahara Sand panel first. And then after we do that, we'll stamp the Tranquil Tide panel. So once again, I've cleaned off my stamp, and I'm going to take the Sahara Sand and we'll just ink this all up. And then we'll flip it over, and we're just going to center this in right here. Give that a press. Now don't rock your stamp, because then you're going to get those halos, but this looks good. So we're going to set that aside, and then I'm going to clean the stamp again, and then we're going to ink that up with our Tranquil Tide. So I'll open up this stamp pad, and we will just ink that up. Tranquil Tide is one of our in colors from 2017-18. And it's really been a popular one. So now we'll go ahead and stamp that on that Whisper White panel. And again, just press straight down. Try to resist the impulse to rock it. And there you go. So beautiful. Now let me set these out of the way because they need to dry just a bit. And so in preparation, I did stamp these in advance so we wouldn't have to wait for dry time. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take these 2 little hearts that we have prepared. We're going to flip them over and add some dimensionals. All right, as you can see, I've added 3 dimensionals to each heart because I want it to be really, really sturdy. So we're going to take the lots of love here and just set this in so that it lines up with everything on our little stamped image here. So there we have sending lots of love for one of our cards, and we're going to do the exact same thing over here with, oh, look at that, it's sticking on my wrist. So we'll pull that off, and then we're going to do the same thing over here. So we're just going to line it up so everything lines up really neatly. Give that a little press, and then we have our sending lots of love for this one. So let me go ahead and bring in the supplies for the Berry Burst card first. We have a card base that is 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored at 5 1/2. So I'm just going to take that, we're going to fold it in towards the mountain on the score line. I'll use my bone folder to give that a good press so it will lie flat for us. The inside panel is going to be a piece of Whisper White. This is 4 by 5 1/4. And I already went ahead and put down a layer of the Berry Burst Foil Frenzy in the stripe design. That's 3/4 inches by 4 inches, and just laid that along one of the edges, and that will be our inside panel. So now I'm going to take some snail, and I'm just going to put that along the back here, and then we'll open up the card and we'll set this in so that all 4 borders are nice and even. Now for the outside here, we're going to take a 2.5 inch by 4 1/4 inch panel of that beautiful Berry Burst foil, and we will just take some multi-purpose liquid glue here, do a nice little line all the way around, and then we're going to set this right here so that there's just maybe a 1/2 inch or so off to the left of our card. And then we're going to take our Sending Love and add some dimensionals to the back. All right, so as you can see, I've added 5 dimensionals, and I'm going to set this, about 3/4 of an inch or so from the bottom. And we'll put that right here, and then to add a little bit of interest here off to the left, we're going to take some linen thread, and we are going to wrap it around our card 2 times and tie it into a bow. So we'll just wrap that around and tie that off into a bow. And what I like to do is I just tie it into a knot up here, and then I can go ahead and do my bow. Now, if I were not doing this on video, I probably would not have had quite such a long strand here. But sometimes when you're doing it on video, you don't always measure everything out just properly. So now, to get that to look just perfect, we're going to trim this with a little ribbon scissors right here, and our card is complete. So here's the one that uses the Berry Burst Foil Frenzy paper in the background. So now let's work with the one that uses the Whole Lotta Lovely Designer Series paper. And again, we're going to use the same size base card, which is 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored at 5 1/2. And again, we're going to fold that in half towards the mountain. Take our bone folder, give that a nice little press here. And then we're going to do the inside panel, and I do have this prepared. It's a piece of Whisper White paper, 4 by 5 1/4. And then I went ahead and added a 3/4 inch panel by 4 inch panel to the left-hand side of that inside piece. And again, I'm going to put that on with some snail. So just a little zip along the top, and that is ready to go into the inside panel of your card. The next thing we're going to do is add that 4 by 4 piece of Designer Series paper from Whole Lotta Lovely. And again, you can get 9 pieces out of a single sheet of 12 by 12 Designer Series paper. So this is a great way to use up that paper. So we're going to go ahead and actually to make some really pretty quick cards too. So here that is. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to layer this Sending Love panel that we've prepared in advance with a panel of crushed curry. Now this is cut at 2 1/2 by 4 1/4. And that should layer up really nicely for us. So let me grab, again, the snail. And we'll put a little snail here on the back side. And then we'll just set this in and give that a nice press once all 4 borders are nice and even. And then again, we're going to add some dimensionals to the back. All right, as you can see, I've added 5 dimensionals to the back. But before we put this onto our card, we want to make sure we have our crushed curry baker's twine wrapped, and so I'm going to just wrap that around once for this particular card. So let me give myself a little bit of play here, and I'm going to cut this off, and again I'm going to tie it in a knot, and then I'll tie it in a bow. So let me get my knot so that I don't have to worry about where my bow is going, and then I'll tie it in a bow. Now we can go ahead and trim these ends, and then we're just going to move this down so that the bow is, maybe about a 1/2 inch from the bottom. And we'll have it look just like this. And then it's time to put our panel. So again, that's ready with 5 dimensionals, and we're going to set this in so that it looks like this. And our card is done, and it looks so pretty. So here's the 2 cards that I just did for you, and I hope that gives you some ideas for using Designer Series paper as well as using our Lots of Love stamp set. So have a great day, and thank you so much for stopping by Stamping to Share. I truly appreciate you. If you'd like to place a product order, please visit my blog at www.stampingtoshare.com. Have a great day. Bye-bye.